Today's video is going to be a reading wrap-up, reading update over the last couple of months. I did not do a reading update last month, so this will be kind of a September and October update. I read a mix of science fiction, fantasy, and horror, so let's get into it. So you may notice behind me all the Halloween decorations are still up, so I'll need to be taking those down soon. And you may also notice all the books that are stacked on my shelves that need to be put away. So I'll have to put those away. Those are all the books that I've gotten over the last couple months through book hauls and some gifts and some purchases, some online purchases. So, all that stuff needs to be taken care of and everything put away and get the library looking nice again. But in the meantime, I did read some books in September that I'll start out talking about. And the books I'd like to start out with are some sci-fi horror novels that I read. So the first one I'd like to mention is Overgrowth by Mira Grant. And this is the special Illumicrate edition. It's a really nice looking edition. Unfortunately, I did not like this book. Probably I would say this is the worst book I've read all year. It's a science fiction book, but it doesn't respect science. And it didn't really have all that many horror elements. So, it didn't work for me at all. If you want to know why it didn't work, I did have a review of this one up on the channel, so you can check that one out. And, I kind of go over why I didn't like it, what didn't work for me, and, all that kind of thing. So the next book I read after Overgrowth was another sci-fi horror, and it's Cold Eternity by S.A. Barnes. This one I did like. It was a good book. This is her third sci-fi horror book, and this is also my favorite one of her three so far. And I also reviewed this one on the channel. So I did Overgrowth and Cold Eternity in a sci-fi horror double feature book review. So if you want to know my thoughts on those two books, go ahead and check that review out on the channel. But I would recommend this one for a sci-fi horror read if you're looking for that. And if you're looking for more sci-fi horror reads, I also did another video. My last video was 6 great sci-fi horror to read. So if you're looking for some sci-fi horror, those are 6 books that you can check out. Of course, spooky season's over now, but I would say sci-fi horror is, you can really read those at any time of the year. You don't have to wait for October and Halloween to read a sci-fi horror novel. So go ahead and check that video out if you are interested. The next book I want to talk about is probably one of the best books I've read this year, and it's certainly probably going to be a Hugo contender for next year. It was an ARC, an advanced reader copy that I got from the publisher. And the novel is Slow Gods by Claire North. So this was an epic space opera novel. The writing was fantastic. It had some really interesting concepts in it. And it's definitely going to be a recommended read from me. I do plan on doing a full review of this as my next video. So I'm not going to talk too much about it, other than it's about humanity in the far future. They have spread through the galaxy. They have populations on multiple planets, a society that has expanded through multiple solar systems. And what happens is this entity, this machine entity called the Slow, shows up and announces to all the nearby planets that a supernova is going to happen on a star, and such planets within range are going to be destroyed. And it's going to happen, 100 whatever years from now. So it's giving them a warning. It's a machine intelligence that has incredible predictive power just by using mathematics and logic and things like that. So it's come up with this with almost absolute certainty. And then the book is kind of how different governments in humanity kind of react to this declaration. And we also follow a main character that has suffered at the hands of his government and also has some strange things happen to them as he is piloting a ship through what is called arc space. I won't say much more here. I will have a full review next week, or my next video, next couple of weeks maybe. And I would recommend that one. The expected release date for that one is November 18th of this year. After I read Slow Gods, I read a fantasy novel, or maybe you could categorize it as more of just speculative fiction, mostly fantasy. Also kind of a dystopian tale to it. This was another arc sent to me by the publisher. The book has since released. It came out on October 14th. But the book is The Works of Vermin by Hiron Innes. And so I read this book. I really enjoyed it. Also, maybe one of my favorite reads of the year. I read an ebook copy of it, an advanced copy of the ebook, and then I decided to go ahead and purchase a special signed copy of it from the Broken Binding. So this novel is really interesting. It's a very unique fantasy world that the author built up. And I also was able to participate in a book talk with this person. I'll link the book talk below in the description, but if you have not read the book, I would not recommend watching the book talk because it has major spoilers in it. So read the book. It's good. Go watch the book talk. It's very interesting, and how Hiron, came up with the world and their writing process and all that. I won't do a full review of this book on the channel since it's not strictly science fiction; it's more fantasy. But I will go ahead and kind of talk about here what I thought about it. The Works of Vermin is an incredibly unique, weird, and imaginative fantasy novel. The setting of this world is an ancient tree stump with layers of society built on top of one another and infested with bugs and vermin. And exterminators spray these fumigants and pesticides to keep the infestations at bay, while the overcity is rife with political corruption and dissent. The Chancellor and Marshal have to keep the population subjugated with perfumes that force compliance, and they also have very violent reactions to rebellion. We follow an exterminator named Guy who survives an encounter with a giant dragon-sized centipede called the Contriver Worm. The Contriver Worm reshapes the city of Tilliard with its toxic molts and venomous stings. Meanwhile, Guy strives to do what he can to keep himself and his little sister from getting swallowed up by the brutal society in which they live. We also follow Aster Vost, a perfumer working for the Marshal and giving him the scent that he needs to oppress and maintain his dominance in society. Guy and Aster's stories are full of tragedy, determination, survival, and much more, with the backdrop of a strange and unique fantasy world. I would say The Works of Vermin is unlike any novel that I've read before. It creates a dystopian society in a world of bugs, toxins, and art. Hiron manages to meld together this incredible world along with a passion for art and theater in a very creative way. The plot can move a little slow at times, and the world building, while fantastic, takes a little bit of getting used to. And this is definitely a novel that needs your full focus and attention, but it is well worth the time to read. If you're looking for something truly unique, I would recommend checking out The Works of Vermin by Hiron Innes. The next few novels I read starting in October were horror novels. It was spooky season, of course, so I decided to go ahead and step away from science fiction for a little bit and read some horror. And what I first read was a Stephen Graham Jones, and this is the Saga Double version. So there are 2 books in this: Killer on the Road and The Babysitter Lives. So Stephen Graham Jones has written several novels. He's a very prolific author. He's a horror writer. He kind of has a unique writing style. But if you like his writing style, you'll, I think, really like his books. I've read 4 or 5 of them now, and I think I've liked every book that I've read by him. I think maybe his most popular book is The Only Good Indians. He is a Native American author, so he tells the stories from a Native American perspective, but he writes horror novels. So Killer on the Road was the first novel I read of his, and it is about a serial killer on the interstate, and the main character is a Native American girl who is running away from her mom and trying to hitchhike, and gets into all sorts of crazy situations. I like this. I like this story. Got a little outlandish at times, a little absurd with the horror elements and this killer. And some really crazy things happen in the story, but I still enjoyed it. And then the opposite side, The Babysitter Lives, is of course about a babysitter who goes into a house that has kind of a parallel dimension aspect going on with it, and it has some ghosts in it, so it's kind of a haunting. It was an interesting story. I liked it as well. I would say both these stories are probably liked about the same, but I really enjoy the saga double format. So if you're familiar with the vintage Ace science fiction doubles, and it kind of works the same way. And this is the first one of Saga's double format. By this time they've had 3 out now, so I'd like to pick up the other 2 and read them. The second one was also horror. The third one was a science fiction double. So if you're interested in the double format, I would recommend checking them out. If you don't like one of the stories, maybe you like the second one. It's a kind of a fun format, and I'd like to collect. I'm a collector, so I'd like to get in collecting those saga doubles while I can, and while it's just getting started. I would recommend Stephen Graham Jones as an author, and this is a good set of stories to start with. And my next read after Stephen Graham Jones was another horror novel, and this is Ghost Road Blues by Jonathan Mayberry. And this is a really good book for a Halloween setting. So it's set at the end of September, and so if you want to read something during October, and you want it set on or near the Halloween season, this definitely gives off a lot of good vibes for that. And it's got a story with some ghostly hay rides going on, a haunted hay ride, and corn mazes, and it has a very, very Halloween, October, fall feel to it. Some killers that have gone into this town of Pine Deep, and I enjoyed it. It's a good read, good story. I won't do a full review or anything. If you're looking for something to read in October and want the Halloween vibes and Halloween theme, this one's a good one to check out. The next book I'm going to talk about is my current read, and it is another horror adjacent novel. It's a fantasy horror, and this one is Empire the Damned by J. Kristoff. And this is a sequel to Empire the Vampire. It does have, it's a fantasy novel, but it has some pretty scary, pretty terrifying vampires in it. And I did really enjoy the first one, so I figured I'd go ahead and pick this up and read it. This is a special Illumicrate edition. This is a really, really fantastic edition of a book. I mean, it just looks amazing. And it is also a signed copy. But I'll be getting into this one. I won't review it on the channel because it's fantasy. I'd like to stick mainly to science fiction for my reviews. I will, of course, talk about other genres during my reading updates, but for the most part, the channel will focus on science fiction. But after I finish this one, I will be getting back into science fiction. And the book that I will be reading after Empire of the Damned, this is getting into my TBR, So this will be my November TBR, and I will be reading Spin by Robert Charles Wilson. Now, this book did win the Hugo Award for Best Novel, and is a very well-regarded book. So let me know in the comments if you read this, if you enjoyed it. But I'll be getting into this one probably, I would guess, mid-November. I'm kind of a slow reader, so Empire of the Dam will probably take me a couple weeks to read. And then after that, we'll get into Spin. And after Spin, I'll be sticking with science fiction. I don't know what exactly I will read right after Spin, but I do plan to read before, well, sometime in mid-December. I plan to be reading Salvation by Peter F. Hamilton. So I have not read any Peter F. Hamilton. I know a lot of people start with Pandora's Star, but I will be starting with Salvation. And I'm starting with Salvation because I'm reading this with a book group, but this one was mentioned as one of his better ones. So since I'll be reading that with a book group, I'll be starting not with Pandora's Star, but with Salvation. And this is the first book in a trilogy. Yeah, so that's kind of my TBR, Spin, and then Salvation. After that, or even between Spin and Salvation, I don't know what I'll read, but it'll be science fiction for sure. I may try to stick a book in between Spin and Salvation, maybe a smaller sci-fi. I'm not sure yet. And then after Salvation, I don't know what I plan to read. Probably science fiction. I'm usually a mood reader, so I don't always plan out my TBRs. But we'll see how the rest of the year goes. Let me know in the comments what's on your TBR. What do you plan to read for the rest of the year? What have you read during the month of October? Did you get in any spooky reads? Anything horror related? Anything you'd like to recommend? Be on the lookout in the next couple weeks for my review of Slow Gods by Claire North. It's definitely a book to look out for. I think it's going to be one of people's favorite books of the year. So you can check that review out. I'll keep it without spoilers. So usually during all my reviews, I like to have no spoilers or very minor spoilers. So be looking out for that. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.